All right, everybody, we are back again for another episode of the Coach's Compass. As always, don't know what episode it is because we're just continuing to have fun and continue to bring on great coaches from across the world. So again, remember, hit that like, comment, subscribe button down below so we can continue to help this thing grow and continue to get cool coaches on to go ahead and continue to help you guys learn from some of the best in the game. And as I said, it's your boy, Coach Coop, all the way over here from Europe. And we got another special guest with us today. We got our boy, Iram, out of Orlando. He's got a Bachelor of Science in Kinesiology. He also has a CSCS. He is currently studying at the University of Pitt for his DPT. He is a level 1 ATG. He's a UCF women's soccer assistant strength and conditioning coach. He also works at Lake Nona Performance Club, where he's working with Orlando City Youth Strength and Conditioning coach over there. Also worked with NBA players getting ready for the NBA draft. And like I said, he is out of Orlando. So Iram, thank you for being here with us tonight and welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to have you on too because it's a young guy. It's a guy that's freshly into the game, right? Like you said off cameras, you've got into this about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
What do you think that you are doing different in this industry right now that is setting you apart from the other coaches?
I think the main thing is that I am super young. So it's definitely like it's a pro and a con because it's a pro because like I can kind of connect with the athletes more of on like because I'm young, so we can connect more on a personal level. And then it's a con just because like I'm their age, so that I have like I guess like there's an authority level there where they're kind of like this guy's younger than me. Why am I listening to this guy? Do you know what I'm saying? So I think it's just the environment or the standards you set is like the environment you're gonna get out of, you know. But I think what's good is that because I'm at a similar age, I can connect to them more.
And how are you combating, being the same age as them and trying to be that authoritative figure, but also still be, being able to connect with them, getting that, drawing that line, that boundary
Like
between like, yo, I'm a
personal and
coach and then
professional.
also being a friend, you know what I mean?
So yeah, so again, it's you have to set the environment early. So like I'm very like big on don't waste my time, and I'll make sure that's like number one because I want to work with athletes that want to work. If that makes sense, I don't want to waste my time with someone that they don't want to get better. If that makes sense.
Not
Uh, yeah, so you set the tone early, and it will follow along. If I'm not the type to be like, oh, I'm your friend, I'm not your friend. Like I want to be your friend, sure, but after we get the work done, if that makes sense. So if you can get the work done, I'll be your friend. If you can't, then let's get this going. You know, let me find someone that will want to work.
I love it, the no bullshit mindset, bro, because
Yeah,
you got to set it early, especially with athletes. Like if you don't set that early with athletes, then they're gonna walk
yeah,
all over you. Otherwise, you know what I mean? Like it's just you're wasting time, like you said.
yeah.
But what made you want to get into the strength and conditioning world?
So I always played sports growing up, and I knew I wanted to be in a career that was sports related. I just didn't know exactly what route. So in the Middle East, I knew I wanted to do medicine. So my plan was to go to like med school and do that sports medicine route. But they only work with athletes to a certain extent to where it's more of a like they only work with injured athletes, number one. And number two, they only work with them for like at periods. So like if you injured your ACL, if you tore your ACL, sorry, you'd see the doctor for like maybe once every couple of months in that short time frame until you get surgery. Then every 6 months after that, if you like for checkups, and then it's kind of like it's done. Like it's very short, it's very brief. There's no like real progress going on between you and the athlete. So I realized that that's not kind of the route that I want to take, just because it's not. You don't get to succeed with the athlete. You're kind of just like a very tiny role in their journey. So then I looked at the rest of the journey, and a big part, if you injure yourself, is um, physical therapy. And another big part is if whether or not either injuring yourself or not injuring yourself is sports performance. And so my decision was between the two, but then I realized that I didn't have to make a decision. I can do both. So I just need to start, if that makes sense. So I'm already like I've already established myself in the strength and conditioning slash sports performance. My next step is to complete my degree in physical therapy. That's the DPT at Pitt.
I
Yeah.
just, that's a lot of knowledge, right? That's a lot of
Yeah.
power there.
Think it.
What are sports like in the Middle East? Because I mean, I have no clue what the sports system is like. Do they? I mean, they play, obviously they play soccer over there, and there's basketball. But what other sports are there, and how is it treated? Because I'm in Europe, so I know that sports here in Europe aren't necessarily in the schools, right? It's more like a club based
Yeah.
thing with pretty much every sport here. So, I mean, in America, you see it now that you got sports in high school, and then they go from high school, they go to college, and college to the pros. What's it like in the Middle East?
It's a bit of both. It's more on the like it's more European style where you're part of a club. Then you're kind of like going through like the phases of education slash athletics. It's also not that like there's not much publicity towards it, so you can't really achieve much with it compared to Europe and America. They have all the sports you can think of. They have soccer, they have basketball, they have volleyball, they have netball. If you've heard of that, they have all the sports. I'd say the only sport they don't have is American football. But that's the first part of the word is kind of American, you know.
Yeah.
No, they have all the sports. They're not really big on strength and conditioning over there either. You're kind of just you go, you play, and you're done. And yeah, it's very basic. I'd say it's like America's strength and conditioning is like top tier. Europe is also up there, and then Middle East is kind of like there. I don't even think there's like a base there yet, a foundation. You know?
That leaves space for you to be the first one to go back
Yeah,
and kind of get it
yeah,
rolling.
yeah.
What was the transition like then from going from the Middle East to coming to America? Like, how did you handle that mentally, physically, and then like leaving all your family, right? Like you leave the Middle
Yeah.
East to come to America to kind of study and kind of get into this field. What went through your mind then?
I had three options. I could either stay in the Middle East, I could move to another part of the Middle East, or I could come to America. America definitely had the most opportunity. Like how I said, like there's no like foundation over there. There's no publicity, so you're kind of going nowhere with your field. Especially if I wanted to do strength and conditioning. So America was like my only option if I really wanted to become successful. I'm not a super like I'm gonna be sad. I'm this. I'm that. I'm not really that type. But then when I finally moved here, there was definitely some like culture shock for sure. And
Yeah.
it's never easy leaving family and friends and all of that. But I never thought that would be me. But I mean, it happens to everyone, you know. So it definitely took some time to adjust. But I'd say the biggest thing was definitely culture shock. Like the culture here compared to there, it's two big differences. After a few months of kind of just like getting the gist of everything, it was no problem.
But I mean, at least you're in Florida. So I'm originally from Florida too. I'm from Jacksonville area.
Uh-huh.
At least in Florida, like it's a little more diverse instead of like being
Yeah,
fully immersed in like the South. Because I know what it's
yeah,
like if you go to the South. Like if you went to like Alabama or Tennessee or something like that, like that's a whole different shock right
yeah.
there, especially culturally. And then going into the sports world. So when you got into the sports world, how did you navigate getting into UCF and like working there with the women's soccer team and now being assistant strength and conditioning coach and also working with players that are trying to go to the NBA?
So my family they have history in Florida, and that's how they know about UCF and like all the like the schooling here. That was really my only option because we were not really familiar with any other states or universities. So they wanted to send me somewhere where they kind of have an understanding of what it's like to be over here. So UCF was like that's the only school I applied to. Thank God I got accepted. But yeah, like that's the only school I applied to over here. And then if I didn't get accepted, then there's no America for me, you know? Yeah, so I came here. Again, I was still on track to do med school. I didn't fully commit to strength and conditioning. It took me 2 years to kind of like fully see the path that I wanted to take. And then actually the semester I was supposed to graduate, I switched my major to kinesiology because I wanted
Okay.
to get more into like I finally made my decision that med school was not the route and that physical therapy slash sports performance was kind of the route I wanted to take. So I switched my major. I switched to kinesiology. It took me an extra year to finish the rest of like the major courses. And then I met a professor and he gave me the opportunity to do an internship in sports science with the women's soccer team. And he told me depending on how this goes depends on like the future of you in athletics at UCF. I worked hard. I did my job. I impressed whoever was there. He gave me the opportunity to work and to do a strength and conditioning internship. And yeah, I was like, okay, sick. I did that for a semester. They liked me. They called me back. I did that for another semester, and then I kind of they. So there's a final project at the end of every semester where you have to present like an annual program, and I presented it. And the women's soccer coach at the time, she enjoyed it, so she said like, let's run it for next year. So she told me like let's stick with me. We'll run it for the girls next year, and we'll see how it plays out.
That's dope, man.
It's a big ladder.
Yeah, but that's also a tricky place to be in, right? Because those are internships, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Those aren't really, you ain't really
No,
making no money at
no,
at
it's
the
all
internships.
free. All the I spent like I want to say 2 years now. Like up to the beginning of this year, I'd work 4 5 a.m. to 10 11 p.m. for free. No
For
money, no
free.
nothing. Yeah.
So how did you survive? Like you're putting all your effort, right? All you got into trying to be a strength and conditioning coach, putting all you got into this women's soccer team. How do you survive on top of that, but still keep yourself, motivated to continue on to be a strength and conditioning coach?
So there's thank God I have a good support system from from my parents. Like thank God. So
Yeah,
they send me over here with a mission. I have to get an education, become successful. They gave me this opportunity, so I know I'm not gonna waste it. I'm not gonna mess around. I'm not gonna joke around. So it's not really a factor of motivation. It's more of a like you were given opportunity. It's not time to mess around. It's like discipline, if that makes sense. If I go based on my motivation or my happiness level every day, I'm not gonna be working. Like I'd
that's
rather
for
just
sure.
enjoy my here. I'm on a student visa. I can't mess up. I can't fail a class. My parents are wasting money. I mean, it's wasting if you're not using it right. But like they're spending money on this. It's not my own. I'm not here to waste time. I'm not here to waste anyone else's time.
So what are some of the things that because the college landscape is different now,
Mhm.
completely different, especially in college sports. Compared to when I was in college. You got the NIL deals, you got your transfer portal. How hard is it, being a college strength and conditioning coach and trying to build up those connections with these athletes that you potentially don't even know are going to be there for the following year, and then you're working with freshmen coming in. So like, what is the difficulties with that you're having to navigate yourself?
In the sense that I'm not like there's no consistency with the athletes.
Yeah, like so, because I mean, they can transfer at any point, right?
Mhm.
And then you also have injuries, and then you got your new class coming in, and it's always an up and down scale
Yeah.
with college athletes. So, how are you with your programming and whatnot, being able to get the buy-in, but also just being able to keep it consistent?
Uh, with those, it's very like situational. You can't like if an athlete wants to leave, I know I'm gonna make sure it's not because of me because I'm not here to parent anyone. I'm not here to assert an authoritative like role over someone. I'm not here to boss anyone around. They want to work, they come work. They don't want to work. If they can, don't come to the weight room. But it's usually a requirement. I give 100% effort in every program, every this, every that. They want to stay great. They don't want to stay. They move on. Like I won't look into the past and be like, I just wasted a couple of hours programming for this guy, and now he's gone. And like that's not my mindset. We just move forward, move forward, move forward. You know.
And with women's soccer, a big thing with them is common injuries, right? You got your ACLs,
Indeed.
your ankles, hips. What are you seeing when these athletes come in as deficiencies, and how are you helping? I would say preventative of those injuries because I mean, but also at the same time, you can't really prevent it at
Of
times.
course not.
So what are you doing to help these athletes become better and perform at their highest level on the field, knowing that there's the huge risk with these injuries?
Yeah, so actually last year we had the UCF. If you look up for UCF women's soccer, like if you keep up with them, you'll see that they've had around like 8 to 9 to 10 injuries, most of them being ACL, meniscus, like knee-related injuries. We've had one Achilles. We have some like hip labrum injuries. We've had like all sorts of lower body injuries, but mainly the knee. And my approach to that is there's always it's never like you can't prevent an injury. Like it's literally impossible. You can't read
It just
every moment.
happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can reduce the chance of injury, but you can never prevent. And, the role we play into that is preparedness of the athlete. So when it comes to injuries, there's always a reason for an injury. It's never like other, like if it's non-contact, there has to be a reason this happened. There has to be a deficiency somewhere. There has to be a compensation somewhere. A contact injury, like it just makes sense. Like the guy just slide tackled me in my knee. I tore my ACL. Like, oh, fine.
Yeah,
But
shit, there
if
ain't shit you can do about that one.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can't prevent it. Like that's like it's unknown. But when it comes to non-contact injuries, where like, oh, I shot the ball and I tore my ACL, that makes no sense to me. You know, like there has to be a mishap somewhere. It has to be a form of overuse, overtraining, load management. Like there's many different key factors that we need to take into account. Number one thing, I like to address the problem immediately. So I know my athletes, they have knee injuries, or women in general. They're 6 times or 5 times more likely to tear their ACL compared to men. So I know that's something I really need to focus on. So it's all about perspective. You have to pick your priorities and make them a priority into your program. So because I've been with these girls for so long as an intern, I can kind of see the behind the scenes. Like none of these athletes are gonna go complain to the big guy. No one's gonna go to the guy that's in charge and be like your program sucks, your this sucks, your this sucks. So they kind of come and like complain to me, yeah, because like I'm kind of like a easy medium. I'm their age, like I'm not gonna snitch. So they'll come and they complain to me. So when I did my final project about them, I kind of had like a one-to-one personal, like this athlete needs this person needs this person needs this. So going into this year, I kind of knew everything they needed, everything they wish they had, any like small, even if it's like a 4 out of 10, a 3 out of 10, like, okay, I feel like my groin is weak, I feel like my calves are weak, I took that into consideration specifically for them. But the knee was the main priority. They all have knee problems, we have to get rid of it. So we stress the knee. We stress the knees in ways that when it comes time for game time, that's not the hardest thing they've had to deal with all week, if that makes sense. Like the stuff they do in practice, the stuff they do in the weight room, that's, I would say, make that the hardest thing of that week. So when they come game time, it's like this is a breeze.
No, that
Um,
makes complete sense.
yeah. So no, yeah, just prioritize the knee, and everything will follow. So like I had this girl, she tore her ACL. She's not UCF women's soccer related, but she tore her ACL, and like it's been a year or two later, and she still has knee problems. So, okay, well, what did they do in PT? What did they do in physical therapy? She'll tell you, oh, we worked on a bunch of like hip, ankle, this, that. What about the knee? What did you guys do for the knee? No, they told me it's like a deficiency in my hip. That's why my knee tore. Okay, fine, but you tore your knee now, so like let's work on the knee, and then we can work up the. So it's kind of just like perspective of how you see things. If I see a problem, like if I see a deficiency, I'll address it and figure out why there's like what's compensating for this to happen. But if there's a major or drastic injury like an ACL tear or this tear, I'll address that before I address anything else, if that
Right.
makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. And then, like with that, like, are you working with the trainers and then your sports scientists and all that stuff to kind of create these programs to make sure that you're hitting all the areas that you need to hit, or is it kind of just experience wise?
You definitely have to have good communication with like the trainers, the PTs, this, because again, like as long as since I don't have the degree yet, I can't like they can kind of pull rank on me, if that makes sense, because they have the medical degree or the physical therapy degree, so I kind of have to listen to them. But I take all of that into consideration into my program. And so if they tell me like no, nothing open, no open chain exercise, no closed, no this, no that, like if they give me something specific, I'll work around it. But I have like there's things where it's a must for me. Like I have necessities where I have to include this into my program, but we'll usually agree, if that makes sense. The reason why I want to go to physical therapy school is so I can never deal with, like I don't have to deal with this side of communication. It's kind of just like Like, oh, I'm the physical therapist and I'm the sports performer. Like, I kind of can do both. Does that make sense?
He wants to be one and all. You know what he wanted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, exactly. Yeah.
But like hearing you talk about all this stuff, like obviously, like it's experience, right? You've seen and been around a lot of things, especially with the internships and whatnot. But
Mhm.
on top of that, what coaches are you learning from in the industry, and you're kind of picking pieces from what they're doing and their methodologies and their philosophies, and kind of putting it into your own.
Yeah, you have to first off, you have to be original. Like, you're gonna see stuff that works. Strength and conditioning is not complicated. It's not complicated at all. You have to keep it simple, especially when it comes to like college athletes where they have no training age, they have no experience, they have no, especially soccer. Soccer, I don't know many soccer athletes that they come to me and they're an elite lifter. You know, like they go, they play soccer and it's done. They're not here to waste time in the weight room. They want to play soccer. So when it comes to that, strength and conditioning is not difficult because they have a young training age. If you give them, if you treat them like I don't want to say a child, but if you try and like just focus on building their foundation and keeping stuff basic and simple, they'll benefit a lot out of it because they didn't spend years growing up working on that. Does that make sense? Like stuff starts to get complicated when you have an athlete that has 10, 15 years of lifting training age where they can't, if you give them the basic stuff, their body won't, like there's no stimulus for it to adapt to get better, if that makes sense. Yeah, so keep it simple. Figure out what their training age is, number one, and keep it simple from there. When it comes to like learning from strength coaches, that's you need to see who you want to be like. You know, like see exactly what do you want to look like in the future. What do we align with our philosophies? So one of my main mentors is Joey Bergelies. Have you heard of him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like I like his stuff a lot because he's very focused on range of motion. He's very focused on resilience. He's very focused on ma- making your body into like, bulletproof. You know, like, and you'll get athletic. Like he's focused. He's balanced. You know, he's not one of those like gym gurus where they have two exercises that work for them and then like boom, like this is the only two things I'm doing and I'm applying it to everyone. You know, he's very like he has a very good perspective of things on and a balance with everything. I make sure to find a way to make to get him his attention so I can learn as much as I can from him. So yeah, you just need to pick who you'd want to be like, and then be original from there. Because if you're a strength coach and I'm learning from you, and I want to be like you, and then I model my whole game, like I copy my game from you, then what makes me different? You know, why would anyone come work with me? Why wouldn't they just go to you? If that makes sense. You have to also have a sense of like originality. You know, like you need to be original with your stuff. So, you know, it's trial and error. You have to just kind of like see what works with you, see what doesn't. Kind of like see it from like the bigger picture. Like, oh, I like this guy because he has this, but I'm not gonna use this. I'm gonna take this from this guy, but I like this, and you know, like just pick and choose what you like, what your personal experiences with. You don't need to stick with it through your whole career. You're like your choices or your decisions can change week to week. You know, but yeah, it's all trial and error. I think people overcomplicate things when it comes to strength and conditioning. Like they concentrate too much on should I do this exercise or this exercise, or should I do this many reps, or should I do this many reps, or why should I do five not four? I think people overcomplicate it and you're getting no results. They're too focused on like the little bit, like the little stuff. They're not focused on working hard, you know, like giving 100% effort. Yeah.
Bro, you talk like a vet in the game, bro. You've been in it for what, 2.5, 3 years, right? And you've been learning a lot, and I can hear it from your voice because you're talking like a lot of the guys that we have interviewed that, you know, keep it simple when it comes to the strength and
Yeah.
conditioning. Like just connect with your people, like find your path, like your rhythm, and like where you're going with it all and what you want to do. But that leads me to ask, like, where do you want to go in the strength and conditioning field? Like, where do you see yourself fitting in? And like, where's the path for Ibram in this whole thing?
I'm very like I like to have a plan, number one. And I like to like once I set my plan, I don't focus too much on like when am I gonna get to this next step? When am I gonna get to this next step? You know, like I give 100% right now. You know, like I focus on what's in front of me so that I can move forward. I finished my bachelor's. I got my CSCS. I'm working on like small other certifications that I have some interest in, like relates to strength and conditioning. And then that I completed this stage, I guess you could say, the next step is my physical therapy degree. You know, my doctorate. Okay, I have to finish this. After this, I have a plan, but you never know. You never know what's gonna happen tomorrow. So it's a step by step thing. Like once I finish my doctorate, we'll move from there. I'm sure more opportunities will arise. I'll have a bit more publicity. I'll have more like worth to my word, if that makes sense. Because I could sound like a vet. I could be talking crazy stuff. You know what's like what validity do I have that what I'm saying is right? You know, like I need more time in the game for people to really dial in with what I'm saying.
Right. No, because a lot of
So it's
guys,
a
a
step
lot of
by
guys
step.
were said exactly that. You know, what I mean, it took them 17, 20 years to even get in the position that they're in. But they just stayed at it, stayed
Yeah.
consistent, kept going. You know, kept working towards what they're trying to get to in their end goal and having a plan on how they were going to get there.
Uh-huh.
Not that the plan goes exactly how it's supposed to be, right? Because there's always bumps and
Of course.
turns and curves and all that stuff. But knowing what you want out of it in the end goal is always super important. Now, I saw that also on top of that, you went to the speed conference in 2024,
Yep.
right? You just attended that. What did you gain from that, and what was it like to be there?
So it's always good to. This is like a sports concept where if you're at like if you're 13, if you play with the older guys, you'll get better. You know. So it's the same thing in anything in life. If you put yourself in situations where you're the worst guy there, you're gonna get better. You know, like I never want to be like the smartest guy there or the this. Like, yeah, sure, I want to be successful, but I'm always trying to learn. I'm always trying to find something to make me better. So being at that conference, it puts you into perspective how long these guys have been in the game. You know, like how little like edge I have over them because I genuinely like they have the experience. I have no experience. You know, like I just got my CSCS a few months ago. They're way past the CSCS. They're way past that. They're like 10 years into the game. I haven't like I barely just graduated university. You know, like I just graduated. I think just the biggest thing is experience. Number one, experience, meeting people, networking, seeing what they did wrong and improving on that. Because yeah, I want to go through my own journey. I want to make mistakes. I want to this. But if someone made that mistake, I don't want to make that mistake. You know, like I'm not why would I waste my time making the exact same mistake he just made? So it's I'd say the best thing about these conferences is one, you get to meet all like the best strength coaches and all their like what they're working on at the moment, or like they kind of give you a small piece of their what they have or what's been going on in their side of training. And number two, you figure out exactly what you want, what your stuff wants to look like, what mistakes to make, what mistakes not to make. I mean, ideally you don't want to make mistakes, but there's going to be risks with everything you choose to do, you know, but you just have to pick and choose.
And then, like on top of that, you like again, we talk about it. You're a young dude in the game, right? And
Yeah.
you're learning from these old cats. Some of these old cats still don't know how to use social media and stuff.
Uh-huh.
How have you used social media for yourself to kind of elevate not only your game and like knowledge and whatnot, but also to push like what you're doing?
Mhm. Yeah, I started my Instagram earlier this year. I always knew I want like Instagram's a big thing now. TikTok, social media in general, big thing because this is where all like the people are at. You know, that's how people are gonna find out about you. All these guys that you'll meet at these conferences, like no offense, but they're old. You know, like they didn't communicate like how we communicate now. So I definitely think being young helps in that sense that I kind of know like the trends or the this or what people want to see. I've gotten a lot of my, I guess you could say a lot of like my clients, my athletes, my parents, my kid, everything, anyone that's shown interest through Instagram where they just message me like you guys. You guys just message me. Like I think having this platform helps a lot because I'm not gonna lie, I wouldn't have been able to contact you guys. You wouldn't have been able to contact me if we never had that like Instagram connection, you know?
Right.
Like you never know who's watching, you never know who's gonna message you. So it's always good to mark it on there. And I'm not paying for it. I kind of do my own stuff. Like all the videos I edit, all the content is me or my athletes, and it doesn't take long to edit. It's just like a quick reel you put together, you post, you know? Like it's effortless, so why would I not do it?
Yeah, for some of the boomers, like that's tough. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
the baby boomers are like, yo, how do
yeah.
you put a video together and put this piece here and that there, and then put like lettering over it
Yeah.
and put the music with it too. Like, trust me,
It's too much for them. It's too
yeah,
much
my
for them.
mom asked me these questions, and then you get the old school coaches. They're like, man, they're like, oh, my thumb's too big to even hit the button.
Yeah,
So
that
like,
what does that even mean?
so it's great to hear like a young guy actually using it to his advantage, because I mean that's honestly how we connected with you, right? I
Yeah,
saw what you were doing on Instagram, and I was like, yo, like I could tell that honestly that you were younger, right? Because I just
yeah.
read through the bio and whatnot, and saw that you're 2026, you're trying to graduate. So I'm like, all right, okay, some things might be a little bit, younger than what like the guys that we've had on before, but I think it's important to have like a young guy on to have interactions with how things are going actually in the game,
Of
because
course.
we can hear as much as we want from the older guys, right? Because they have a bunch of knowledge. There's a whole bunch of power from them, but it's also important to hear from the next generation coming up. Like, what are you guys struggling with that you also would love to hear more of, or like gain more knowledge from, and then like what you're doing to also be successful in such a quick, not even a quick rate, but at the rate that you're going right now. So like, what are some areas that you wish you knew more of, like when you got into this game, and some people that you would love to hear more from to actually learn from?
When I first started out, my biggest problem was I was overcomplicating everything. So I wanted to know what the best exercise was, what the best this was, what the best this was. There's no best exercise. There's no best anything. It's very trial and error. You kind of just have to like pick and choose what you like, and not just what you like, what fits the athlete. Like I'll have athletes like I love like my foundation in most of my programs is squatting. You know, but if I don't have enough time to teach a guy how to squat, I'm not gonna squat with him. I'm not gonna waste time. So I'm gonna find something else, trap bar, this, that. Like there's different things you can use, but it's very situational. So my biggest thing was I used to overcomplicate everything. So I always wanted to know like, well, so what should I do instead? What should I this? I wish someone was there at the time to kind of tell me like, chill. Like this is not supposed to be overcomplicated. So definitely first, like I need someone to tell me to relax, like just calm down. Let's take this step by step. Number two is like periodization is what most people struggle with. And I'd say the biggest thing to improve or how to improve with that is like, oh, how do I program for power? How do I program for this? Is do it to yourself. Like how am I going to give someone something and I haven't tried it on myself? How do I know it works? Okay, I've tried it on this athlete. How do I know it's worked on this athlete before that? Everything I give to someone, I've done to myself. I've tried myself. I put myself through that because if I can see improvement, they'll see improvement. Like I'm a retired athlete. Sure, I'm not like actively playing a sport. I'm not on a team right now, but if I can go through a 4, 5, 6, 10 week strength program and I see ridiculous numbers, there's no reason why this athlete should not. Do you know what I'm saying? Especially I'm more experienced. Like I have my head in the game and all of that. I'd say that was my biggest thing where I was kind of like, how do I know this works? You don't. You genuinely don't. You have to try it out. So just be patient. Don't overcomplicate. Keep it simple and move forward.
Man, that's awesome, bro. Like it's good to hear that you like actually are testing it out yourself, and
Yeah.
also reminding yourself like, hey, bro, like I gotta be patient with it
Yeah.
sometimes. Like with my own stuff, like there is no best exercise for one thing. There is no best workout plan for whatever you're trying to get to. But also on like, what would you say, if you're talking to maybe if you're talking to your younger self, right? What would be the number one piece of advice you would give your younger self?
Nice. Well, this is a good question. Like in the sense of strength and conditioning?
Strength and conditioning, you can say life, trying to figure out and trying to navigate how to strength conditioning, coming from Middle East, going to America, like just trying to find out who Ibram is. Like, what would you tell your younger self before, like looking at who you are now?
So I spent I was originally a health sciences degree and I spent 3 years doing that or 2 years around that time. So I wish I would have kind of knew that this is kind of the route I wanted to take. So I would have just started earlier, if that makes sense. But I'm also kind of happy that I switched at the last moment because it forced me to believe that this is what I want to do. Like I'm not heads like if I started earlier, I would have kind of been like I wish I did the other thing. I wish I. So I honestly like any advice I would have gave to my younger self. There's always something else. There's always something else. it's kind of just like, thank God I'm here right now. I made it to this point. I'm kind of just like, I'm praying I make it to the next point, and that's it. There's nothing really I could kind of tell myself at a younger age. Just be consistent, be patient, don't stress. Just keep working, keep working.
Enjoy the journey as it
Yeah, just
goes,
enjoy.
bro. That's fucking awesome, bro. So before we get out of here, bro, we got our last segment, right? So it's a 90-second round and it's one-word answers. It's like 10 questions and they're all across the board, right? They could be sports related, they could be strength and conditioning related, they could be just life related. All right. So are you ready?
Yeah. One word.
All right. Yep. One-word answer. Here we go. 90 seconds on the clock. Favorite post-workout snack?
Grapes.
What position in soccer trains the hardest in the weight room?
Midfield.
Pizza or burger?
Burger.
Do you prefer off-season or in-season training?
Off season.
Top athlete you've ever trained?
Like his name?
If you want to, yeah, sure.
Xavier Johnson.
Your favorite exercise?
Can I take that back? Sprinting. Sorry, sprinting.
So then which do you prefer, a good sprint session or a heavy lift session?
Sprinting session.
Best gym you've ever been to?
Like Nona Performance Club.
What is your number one flaw as a coach?
Rushing.
Would you rather skydive blindfolded or swim in a cave that you don't know where it ends?
Skydive.
And that is it for the day, bro. Hey, we appreciate you coming on, dog. And like I said, guys, if you're ever in the Orlando area and you ever get a chance to go down and check out, what is it called again? You got Lake Nona Performance Club in Orlando. Go ahead and check out my boy Ibram, right? So as you can go ahead and get some good work with him. He is a young guy in the game, but as you can hear, he has plenty of knowledge. And all he's trying to do is continue to grow and become better. So thank you for being here with us tonight, bro.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. And we're out.